Thank you very much. It's a great pleasure. I'm very happy to be here and be able to tell you about my research today. The project I'm going to be discussing today is joint with a colleague of mine at Harvard Business School. His name is Talis Teixeira. So the title of today's presentation is Improving E-commerce Margins by Adding Search Frictions. I think a more provocative title would be Making the Shopper's Life Harder makes things better for the online retailer. And I'll tell you exactly how that works. The motivation for this project comes from 2 points. The first is an observation that online retailers often have thinner margins than brick and mortar stores within the same category. And this may be true for several reasons. One is that shipping costs are often borne by online retailers. So a physical store is a very effective fulfillment center, right? Shoppers come, you give them the good, done. Second reason is price competition is intensified by price transparency. Whereas comparison pricing is more costly for the shopper in physical environments, online, the next price is just one click or one search away. The third reason, or one of many other reasons, is that discounts are used in tandem with other strategies. So you might encourage an online shopper to sign up for your online newsletter in exchange for a discount, which is a very common inducement. I think more generally, our feeling is that whereas physical retailers know a lot about how to optimize a physical retail environment. They have the benefit of decades of experience and research. Online retail is really quite nascent, and so they're kind of at a disadvantage at getting the margin performance that physical retailers enjoy. A second observation that motivated this project is that many online store designers try to make it as easy as possible for shoppers to navigate and search for products online. And this seems like, why not, right? One of the main benefits of having an online store is ease of search, convenience. So why not actually capitalize on that benefit and make the online search and shopping experience as seamless and as frictionless as possible? So in thinking of how exactly to help an online retailer with their margins, the place I tend to look at first is price discrimination / market segmentation. Just to quickly give a dichotomy of 2 ways in which you might do this, on the left you have customization, which is really where we find most online retailers looking at these days. You make different offers for different shoppers, either through a CRM campaign or the holy grail of actually customizing the online shopping experience to each shopper's demographics or purchase history. And that's great, high potential. It turns out to be pretty costly, both in terms of analytical time as well as in the actual implementation of things. An additional potential pitfall is consumers might start finding things unfair if you take it to the extreme and find that the person beside you has a completely different experience with the same brand than you have. What this talk is about, and where we see the potential, is in self-selection. Situations in which all shoppers receive the same experience, the same menu of offers, but a situation in which the online retailer has designed the menu, designed the product attributes, the shopping experience, and the prices, such that consumers self-select into the offers that you want them to take. And we see this all the time. Nathan brought up some of my work on outlet stores. Outlet stores are there for any consumer to access. Flagship stores are there for any consumers to access, but somehow the design of the stores, the distance between one store to the next, the relative prices are such that you get exactly the kind of consumer you want in your outlet store. And what we want to do here is to get a similar outcome in an online store. And this has the additional benefit of having really low operational requirements. You're lazy. You just have one thing for everyone and hope that it works. So the research question here is a very easy one. Can an online retailer improve its margin performance by making its discounted products harder to find? So conceptual framework, just to show exactly which pieces we mean to play with, we mean to study. So consider a website, full price items, discount items, all in one bucket, all pretty easy to locate for every consumer. Consider 2 types of consumers: a price-insensitive shopper, lots of money, very high willingness to pay; a price-sensitive shopper who is really much more conscious about saving than the other type of consumer. And the price-sensitive shopper predictably goes for the discounted offer. However, even though the price-insensitive shopper doesn't care as much, a discount is something all shoppers enjoy, right? All things equal, you do want to spend less. if you can. And that's where we think most of online retail is now. Discounted shoppers are very visible, discounted offers are very visible, or they're very accessible. And so oftentimes the result is that you subsidize price-insensitive shoppers with discounts that they don't really care as much about. What we hypothesize would work and what we suggest is a situation in which full price items and discounted items are separated by search frictions, which we operationalize as just more clicks on a website. And obviously the desired outcome, as you might predict by now, is for the price-sensitive shopper to spend more time getting to the discounted offers, and for the price-insensitive shopper to just trade up and buy a full price item. Now note that two important things have to be true for this idea to work. One is that the price-sensitive shopper actually has the time and is willing to expend the effort to click 3 or 4 more times to get to the discounted items. And the second is that price-insensitive shoppers are actually time-constrained and lazy enough to just not bother and go for the first or the second thing they see on the website. So to study this question, we implement a series, yes?
You had the word margin. You're trying to maximize margins or profits?
The difference for you being?
Maybe margin per consumer, but you might have more consumers and as a result have a greater profit.
Yes, so that is our concern. Like going back to this picture, you'd have lower profits overall if more of these price-sensitive shoppers just don't bother and drop out. And then you might actually have higher margins per purchase, but overall a smaller consumer base. And we're careful to see that that doesn't happen in this work. And we can come back to that later.
Will you be operating in this game if there will be one company that will have easier time to get to the discount, and one company that will have a harder time to get to the discount? Wouldn't the consumers go to the other place?
So the competitive effects are not something that we really look at too carefully as of now. I'll tell you a little bit more about the empirical setting, and then we can discuss what you can take away from this versus what you might be a little bit more careful about. So the company that we do implement the experiments with is Zalora. It's an online fashion retailer based, in Southeast Asia, headquartered in Singapore, but with operations in almost every Southeast Asian nation, really everyone except Burma. It's a Rocket Internet venture. So for those of you who are familiar, Rocket Internet's business model is to take online business models that have worked in developed contexts, clone them, and operate them in developing markets. So the great benefit of working with this particular firm is, well, first, that they chose to work with us and let us play with their website. Number one benefit. The number two benefit is that because in the Philippines, online shopping is relatively immature, it represents for us a relatively clean environment at which to study our main effect. The pitfall of that is we don't have the rich competitive interaction that we might have in more developed contexts, but the first question for us is to establish that the main effect actually exists, and then we might think about how this would play out in a competitive context. The other main benefit is that because it is a Rocket Internet venture, the business works in the ways that we're familiar with. The website looks like any other website you might have seen. The underlying logistics look like every other online website every other online store that we're familiar with. All right? So this is a page on the website that has to do with men's polo shirts. So I want to turn your attention to 3 elements of the website, not the 3 products, but the first element I wanted to turn your attention to is this little button up top. It's called Outlet. What that button does is that it takes you to a portion of the website that just filters out all of the other products except for those discounted 40% and above, which is essentially what an outlet store is, right? The second element is this discount sorting option under the drop-down. So you can sort the search results according to popularity, lowest price, highest price, things we're familiar with, in addition to sorting by discount. A small observation, when you look at Amazon.com, it has a lot of the same sorting options that you have here, except that they don't let you sort by discount. Now, no one really knows why Amazon does the things it does, but we look at that and we say, hey, I think they know something. Let's see if that actually does anything for us. The third element is these little markers that, if nothing else, actually turn your attention to the fact that they are at a relatively high discount and give you the additional information of the percent discount. So as you might imagine by now, what we do is to take away each of those elements in turn and see what effect that has on shopper behavior and purchase decisions. So just to adjust the conceptual framework a tiny bit to reflect what actually happens on this website, full price items and discounted items are separated by some barriers, except that it's super easy to get from one to the other. And what we do is to actually put some artificial fences between the discounted offers and every other offer. So what we do is, over 1 week, we randomly assign visitors to the website. So this is a real website, it's a real business. Each visitor gets randomly assigned to one of 4 variations. Now, because this is an exploratory study I'm presenting to you, we limited the subjects to just the new visitors, partly to diminish the risk for the business, and partly because we wanted to make the story as clean as possible and remove whatever visitors might be thinking before visiting the website, because new visitors, we think, have as little information as possible about the available prices and the available products on the website. So in the control, we have all navigation features present, right? The outlet link, the discount sorting function, the flags. And in each treatment, we remove a subset of these navigation options. In treatment 1, we remove the outlet link. In treatment 2, we remove the discount sorting option and the discount markers, which we think of as working in tandem. And in treatment 3, we remove every single navigation element, really as a means of trying to go from the least amount of friction to the most amount of friction. Turns out we don't get that monotonic effect, but we get encouraging results nevertheless. What are we interested in looking at? So up top, we have average basket discount. This is a multi-category retailer. It makes the most sense for us to look at each transaction and just take the total transacted price over total list price and get that as an indication of how high of a discount each shopper gets to experience. Then the primary objective is to decrease this without changes in assortment. And because pricing works in a very transparent way for this retailer, we can draw a straight line from discounts experienced to the margins. So there's no fake pricing in this setting. The discount truly is indicative of the margin that the retailer experiences in percentage terms. The next outcome variable we look at is the conversion rate. Obviously, we don't want higher margins per transaction at the expense of half of your consumer base just dropping out. So we're careful to see that we track the percent of visitors that make a purchase, and we want to make sure that it doesn't suffer. And the third is the basket size, the total amount spent on each transaction. We want to ensure that the basket size remains stable, that consumers are not trading from high discounted items with high prices to low discounted items with low prices. All right, so now I'm going to show you the results. So here is how things played out. Over the week that this experiment ran, we got about 25,000 visitors that fell into each treatment group. The conversion was such that in each group, about 300 to 350 transactions went through. Here are the markdown results. In the control, the average markdown for a transaction basket was about 14.53%. In each of the treatments, we got lower experience discounts, all around 12%. And these are all significantly different from the control. Looking at the conversion rate, I should say that we don't experience any decrease in the conversion rate. In fact, we experience marginal improvements in the conversion rate, which I'm happy to discuss after this talk. Yes?
Quick question about your random assignment. So you think about the 4 people of us putting the random assign in the treatment and control. Your initial arrival at the website is the same for everybody, and then you dynamically randomly assign people into different buckets. So how you do that is like Nathan, you're going to put in no discount flag sorting, and you put me on the no outlet. So as we're click, you randomize.
No. So at any point you access the website, you're assigned to one of the 4 conditions. and that condition is maintained throughout your experience on the website, even if you visit the website again within that week period. So the random assignment, another way to say that is that the assignment occurs prior to seeing any element of the website.
Okay, so you mean that you designed this for specific kind of website?
Correct.
For 4 pockets?
Yes. So there were 4 websites operational at the same time. All right. And lastly, basket size, which for this table is denominated in the local currency, remains stable for 2 of the 3 treatments and experiences a substantial increase for the second treatment. So we find this very encouraging. Just to summarize the results, in each of the treatment groups, we found that shoppers bought items at a much lower discount, that conversions didn't suffer, and that total amount spent was stable, at the very least. While products and prices available on the website remain unchanged. So I think this is a point that we'd like to stress. The process to actually make this change is for a webmaster to comment out one line in the code of the website. And for that, you experience a 20% increase in the experience margins. So we find this to be a really encouraging finding, at least for the online retailer's perspective. From a researcher's perspective, I think this tells us a lot about the potency of very small changes in online experience. So in my work with outlet stores, and in your experience with shopping at outlet stores, it's the question of driving an hour away to a different store to experience the same brand. Here it's a question of clicking 2 times versus 1 time. And yet we find effects on margin that are comparable at the very least. So that gets us excited, and this represents a cost-neutral change in selling strategy that promises significant potential returns. So I have time for a few caveats, one of which is that increased search frictions on a website may drive consumers to the competitor's website. So we do have some insight on this, even based on our empirical setting. So although there really isn't a credible competitor to this website in the Philippines, a lot of the brands that are present on this website are available in physical stores. So the alternative to buying on the website is to visit a physical store, and we find that there really isn't a difference between the experienced results for branded products than for products that are only available on this website, the brand's private label. So that tells us that whereas competitive effects may have a role, it isn't so much of a role that we actually observe a difference between the products and the website, given the availability of the competition. The second caveat is that long-term performance may be harmed as consumers form expectations about an online store. Frankly, I put this up there because I think it's a responsible thing to do, but we aren't very worried about that either, because when you think about the long-term experience of a consumer with an online store, the experience of navigating through a website is only one of several factors, and casual empiricism tells us that a lot of the aspects of the relationship between you and an online store might actually matter a lot more. Say, what product did you get, your return experience, the quality of the products, the CRM. When you take all of those into account, what you're asking here is how much does the 5-minute interaction on the website actually influence your likelihood of return? Without evidence to back my statement up, I would posit that negligible, and that you might take our recommendations to be robust to this concern. And that is it. So thank you very much. Questions? Do you mind if I start up there? Sure.
Small question on the last point that you mentioned. Did you see a shift in the customer demographic? You said the conversion rate didn't change much. Mm-hmm. But were there retention of more price insensitive people than the price sensitive, and was there a shift in the percentage?
So because we looked at only new customers for this, our capacity to say anything about that is limited. However, we do see that the demographics, insofar as Google Analytics can tell us who these people are, don't shift by very much. So we're looking at the same people, we're just having them behave differently on the website. Yes?
Yeah, the results on the margin rates are kind of intuitive, but are counterintuitive on the conversion rates. Given what has been learned in many other experiments about decreasing friction having a positive impact on conversion, how do you kind of rationalize the fact that you had the opposite effect?
So I don't relish having to rationalize this effect. To be honest, we're happy that conversion didn't suffer. We're a little bit puzzled by the increase. I can only speculate. One reason might be that on a fashion website, discount information can be taken as a negative signal of quality. That's one. One thing we also observed is that in the treatment groups with increased search frictions, people did make more visits to the website over the course of the week. So if you think about each return to the website, kind of increasing your chance of conversion, that might also have been a mechanism. I should say that the next steps for this project are to redo the experiment, this time involving the entire customer base. And what that will allow us to do is to match these results with the historical transaction data, which will tell us more about what types of consumers behave which way. Michelle.
It seems like looking at the scenario playing forward in the long run as an equilibrium, that one of the things you want to track is the expectations of finding the discounts. That as you increase the search card for the discounts, one can envision that over time people think, well, this is not a very discounted stores, and that could have an impact that would be not necessarily beneficial in the long run.
Right. So I think that's a really important point, and again, lots for us to do. What I would say is that under the hood, there are two stories here, right? One story is that consumers know what the distribution of prices and attributes is, and are just deciding whether they want to spend more time to actually experience the lower end. The other story is that they don't know, and this is truly a story about search and discovery. Given the setting, I think we'll be limited in actually answering which one it is, but again, the difference between how new customers behave and how existing customers behave will tell us a little bit about that, and that will have implications for the competitive story as well. Yes?
So this project is very interesting because you think about the two predictions. If you make the search more friction over there, some customer may search it harder because I know there's going to deal could be found. So you make customer more engaged with your website, right? So it's the other, it's not the annoying factor, actually it's make you engaged, sticky with the website. So if you have the session data, the search data, put the wish list and the shopping cart, and so that will give you pretty much a stronger identification in terms of search, your story over here, right?
Yes, and that's another reason why we might actually have experienced the increase in conversion, right? There's this element of engagement that might actually have also worked to the firm's benefit.
What was that data on the session data? Was more time being spent in any of the four?
So we haven't looked at that. The session data I mentioned was the number of separate visits to the website.
Not visits because it's over a week, so I would expect that to be big.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm wrong, but just the duration of time per session. Was
The-
that the same across the four?
No, it was definitely higher for the treatments because you necessarily had to spend more time on the website to access any particular product. Yeah. Yes.
It's a quick question you may have mentioned. Did you control where they came from before putting them? Because we find in conversion rate matters based on where they come from.
Yeah, so consumers were randomized according to everything, including where they linked to the website from. So it was the same set of consumers completely.
And how about looking at that difference by device? Did you notice anything like that? So people on mobile maybe having a bigger impact than people from
To
desktop.
discipline this work, we looked only at desktop and tablet. Okay, so because we have desktop and tablet, we could actually look at what you just said. Yeah, good idea. All right.
What did your plan do and how?
So interesting story. So we were kind of disappointed at the start that after we gave them these results, they didn't immediately make a change. After all, margins were important to them as much as to anyone else. But because of, we were working with the Philippine branch of the company that had headquarters in Singapore, and all of these policies were developed in Singapore to implement in 7 other countries. It's taking them a while. which in the end is good for us because we want them to run this again. So, I think once we run this again with more of their customers, they're very likely to actually just make the changes that we try. Yep. All right, well, thank you very much. It was a pleasure.